Are you listening? Damn.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Frank Pelayo, your local realtor. Yesterday, I made a Facebook post. I asked you a question. My question to you was, if you could ask a realtor one question, what would it be? Turns out I had a few questions. So I'm making this video to reply to those. First question was from Mo. What does it take to buy a house if I already have one? I'm looking to buy a house, but I'm not sure if I can. Buying a house, a second home is basically like buying the first one. You go through the same process. The only difference is that one of them, it's either you claim it as a secondary home or it's going to be a income property. So there's a little bit more detail on that, especially when it comes to the loan. But there's definitely something you can do. After 3 years, you can buy. You can go back to FHA and you can repurchase something. But it's kind of defining what the second home or the income property is. Definitely, it's possible. You just need to get qualified again. I got another question, and the second question was from Fred. What tax consequences if I sell the second unit or 2-unit property and buy a single family? For the most part, there's no consequence whether you're buying where you're selling a 2-unit or if you're buying a single family home. You'd be doing a 1031 exchange. A 1031 exchange is a way to not have to pay for capital gains. Now, capital gains tax is, if you sell your property for X amount, you made so much money on this, now we're going to tax you. So those are capital gains because you're making a profit from selling the property. Now, to kind of avoid that, that's where the 1031 exchange comes in. Now, the 1031 exchange is selling my home for $600,000. I'm going to buy a home for $600,000. I don't want to pay any taxes. So you kind of trade one property for the other without having to say, oh, well, I didn't gain any money from buying this property. I'm buying this other property that's at equal value. So that's what the 1031 exchange is. And you kind of avoiding the whole capital gains tax. I'll make a video for that sometime later. I can talk about it a little bit, go into detail, or you can always contact me. But definitely, that's a really good question. So the consequence is 1031 exchange. So take a look at that. You can Google it. You can find the information real easily. But give me a call. Let's see. Question number 3 is from Rick. He says, "Hi Frank, 2-part question. What are some tips that you have for first-time buyers? And secondly, what is more important in your opinion, the lot size for potential expansion or the location of a home in regards to the city, school, entertainment?" And he says, for the most part, you want to. It's really about location. You want to be able to feel comfortable in the neighborhood you're going to buy. Buying a home nowadays is, it's not cheap, so you want to feel comfortable in the long term. I would say lot size, but because depending on someone like me, I would like to expand. I would like to be have something bigger, but definitely if I'm going to send my kids to school, I want to make sure that they go to the best school. So definitely, it's about the location. I think long term it's more beneficial for somebody, especially if they're not looking to do too much. But if you're looking to do something, you want to make sure what you're buying, and if you're going to do the potential expansion, you want the bigger lot. But for the most part, yeah, location, definitely. Question by Nancy. Her question is, when looking into buying a home, do you think foreclosure homes should be an option? How do you find out the property tax, and does it vary when buying a foreclosure home versus a brand new home? To answer the first part of your question, it's really tough to go into foreclosures. Kind of want to avoid it just because a foreclosure home is going to be purchased by an investor. Typically, it's really bad out of shape, or there's always something wrong with it. And financing, you won't be able to finance, so they're always asking for cash. And so whoever you're going to be competing against is probably going to be a cash investor. I'm not going to say it's impossible. There are HUD homes, so that's another option. But I can talk about that in another video, because HUD homes are they're foreclosed homes that you can purchase, and they allow lower income families, but you have to qualify, so you have to be within a bracket. To answer your second part of the question about the property tax, I have a system that I can look up property taxes. I can kind of give you an idea of what the tax rate is, but for the most part, there's no difference whether it's the foreclosure or a brand new home. Reason being is because it's whatever the assessed value is in the area. So if they assess it at $160,000, they're going to tax you on $160,000, even though the house is worth $500. So that's kind of how the taxes are assessed. But I do have access to the tax rates and stuff like that, so I can be able to answer your question. I got another question from Edgar. Can I qualify for a first-time home buyers program if I owned my home for over 5 years? Yeah, you can. After 3 years, you can qualify for FHA. So you kind of do you kind of reprocess, but it actually goes back to that first question that I was asked. About whether it's going to be a secondary home or an income property. That's kind of what affects that kind of purchase at the same time. And it does come back to the 1031 exchange, just because you don't want to have to worry about capital gains. So yeah, definitely you can after 3 years. So those are all the questions, guys. If you have any more questions, feel free to go ahead and comment on that post, or go ahead and make a new post, tag me, or Facebook Messenger. Give me a call. I can answer your questions. If you have anything else you want to talk about, feel free. Your local realtor friend Pelayo. Stay tuned.